Hello, and welcome to the FarmHouse. I'm Candace Wierzbowski.
And I'm Stephanie Spiker.
And recently, I got to talking with Brittany Peachey. She is the Aquaculture Operations Manager at Hudson Valley Fisheries, and I do believe she is the first aquaculture farmer we've had on here. We've spoken to aquaponics farmers, which is slightly different in that it involves plants. Brittany, though, is strictly here for the fish. So Hudson Valley Fisheries is located in Hudson, New York, and it's a fish farm that specializes in sustainably raised fish. And so, Steph, I have a question for you. You're a fan of seafood, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so say you're out to eat and you're in the mood for some seafood, and you see two fish on the menu and you're equally interested in both. However, one says that it was wild caught and the other says it was farmed. Would those labels influence your decision?
I think, yeah. I do think I tend to go towards wild caught.
I think a lot of people do.
And I think especially, it might depend also, though, a little bit on where I am. You know, because where we live in Pennsylvania, we are not that far from Maryland, Delaware, Jersey, like areas where you can actually be by water. So, like, if
the fish are fresh.
Yeah, if I'm in Maryland, I'm going to go wild caught because I'm assuming that means it's like relatively local.
Right. As opposed to if you were dining in, say, Nebraska.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
For sure.
Okay. Well, Brittany had some interesting things to say about the differences between wild and farmed fish, things that I hadn't considered before. Another thing about Brittany is that last year she won the Golden Hoof Award at the New York State Fair, which is an award for animal care and husbandry. So naturally, I was interested in asking her about how that translates to fish, since it would seem like an award that would normally go to someone working in a more traditional livestock field. I mean, it has the word hoof in there.
For an animal that actually has hooves, yeah.
Right. So I can't wait for you all to hear what she has to say about all of that. So let's welcome her into the farmhouse. Brittany, welcome to the farmhouse.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
So tell us about your role as Aquaculture Operations Manager at Hudson Valley Fisheries.
Yeah, so I've been at Hudson Valley Fisheries for around 8 years. I started as an aquaculture technician, so day-to-day, taking care of the fish, doing cleaning and basic system maintenance. I came up here after I got my master's from Texas A&M in aquaculture nutrition, and then I moved up into management, and I've been here ever since. I guess as far as like my role right now, I kind of think of it as being like a spider sitting on a web and getting information in and then, deciding where it should go. So managing threads like fish biology, growth, what kind of equipment maintenance needs to be done, staff and personnel development, talking to harvest, processing, sales and marketing and things like that. So gathering information and then trying to communicate and solve problems.
Wonderful. So what made you decide to pursue a career in aquaculture?
Yeah, so I grew up actually in rural Pennsylvania. My family wasn't directly involved in agriculture, but I grew up around it. And so I always had a lot of respect for farmers. Particularly, there was a lot of family dairy farmers where I'm from, and just seeing their dedication and self-sacrifice is something I always, again, respected. I didn't necessarily see it as a career field. When I went to college, I was going for biology at Grove City College, and I was thinking about medicine, but obviously that didn't pan out. I had an aquatic biology class that kind of got me interested in the aquatic environment, and so I started exploring ways to have that as a career. Again, I wasn't quite sure. I ended up getting an internship at the Virginia Institute of Marine Science in oyster aquaculture, and that was kind of the hook, I guess you could say, that really cemented my interest in aquaculture as a field of study and as a career field, because I really enjoyed the intersection between like hands-on labor with science, with caring for animals.
Okay. So can you explain for those who aren't familiar with it, what are recirculating aquaculture systems and why are they beneficial for both the fish and the end consumer?
Yeah. So recirculating aquaculture systems in general are aquaculture farms that reuse the water that they take in multiple times. So typically, to be considered a fully recirculating aquaculture farm, 90% or more of the water that's taken in is recycled through the systems multiple times. And so we call them RAS farms. So if you hear me say RAS, that's what I mean. So they accomplish this using a set of filters, basically. And I'll just go over in general what's used. Basically, we're managing solid waste, so such as feces, using drum filters or settling filters, nitrogenous waste, using biofilters. Dissolved gas management is important, so expelling carbon dioxide, dissolving oxygen for the fish, protein skimming, temperature controls. And so as far as like benefits, RAS farms tend to be more efficient with water resources as compared to more traditional forms of fish farming. So we're producing more fish with less water. So in addition to like conservation of water, a big benefit of RAS is that we can capture and reuse the waste. So I mentioned the fish feces. Obviously, that's what we do here at Hudson Valley Fisheries. So all that solid waste is captured and it's sent to a composting facility, and they end up mixing it in with a soil product. So it becomes kind of like a fertilizer. Biosecurity is a huge thing. So there's no interaction with wildlife on this type of farm. Well, particularly the way we do it, because everything's indoors, everything's closed off. We don't have to worry about disease transfer or parasites. And then compared to some of the other types of fish farming, we don't have escapes, predator problems. And so this complete isolation from the environment means that we don't use antibiotics. We're able to have consistent harvests. So it's not a seasonal product, again, because we're controlling the environment, the temperature, the way the fish are growing. We can have consistent harvests every week. Another big thing, traceability, so full control over our product. Seafood fraud is one of those things you sort of hear about.
Yes.
And maybe it's, part of the local food movement too, is being able to see where your food comes from. So as far as our fish goes, we know where the eggs came from, where the feed came from, what's in it, what the water quality is like. So having that traceability and then saying, we process our fish, you're going to get only our fish and nothing else, basically. So the quality is going to be what we promise it's going to be. And then as far as RAS in general, site location is a big benefit just because RAS farms in general can be located closer to market. So like we're 2 hours from New York City, 3 hours from Boston. So our carbon footprint's a lot less than, say, an imported salmon product. And one of the other big benefits, we're just kind of getting into this, but there's the ability to pair RAS farms or on-land aquaculture with plant products. And so, again, we're not really fully combined, but there are people that have done that, and it's something that can be explored for sure.
When you say plant products, does that mean like growing plants within the tanks, or how does that work?
Like aquaponics, except bigger. I guess, yeah, it is aquaponics, but yeah, there are plants in development that I know that are pairing the two. From what I understand, it's difficult to do it on a large scale, but obviously aquaponics can be successful on a small scale.
Yeah. We talked to an aquaponics farmer a few weeks ago in New York, actually, and she mentioned all the fish and how they are such an important part of her operation there. So, So what does a typical day look like for you at Hudson Valley Fisheries?
So it's interesting you asked that, because I've gotten that question before, and I never really know how to answer it.
Are there no typical days?
There aren't really typical days. Yeah, so I might be, I guess just running through some of the things that can happen, analyzing farm performance and how it's been producing, gathering information or prepping for an audit on one of our third-party certifications, even like helping out with fish transfer events sometimes. And more recently, I've been developing a new pet treat line I'm really excited about. Yeah, so it's Happy Trout Pet Treats. So like creating the treats, developing SOPs for that, collecting materials, things like that, communicating goals with staff and personnel management, and then always looking for ways to improve our processes and trying to predict the future.
Okay. So you were recently honored with the Golden Hoof Award from the New York State Fair. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
What does receiving this award mean to you?
Yeah, so it was definitely an honor to be recognized. And especially as a fish farmer, I feel like the tide is turning, of course, but the tide is turning on aquaculture, that people are beginning to recognize that it is agriculture. So it's exciting for me to receive that. And especially as an animal welfare award, animal welfare and obviously fish welfare is increasingly important in the marketplace. Not just from a business point of view, but also from an ethical point of view as well. So to be recognized publicly for good animal welfare practices was very gratifying. And I want to thank my colleague Heidi Raker for the nomination.
Yeah. I like that you pointed out that like fish welfare isn't necessarily something that like I think a lot of people think about in terms of animal welfare. I have to wonder if it's like, I don't know if it's because like fish aren't like quote unquote cute the way that like lambs or calves or sheep or goats are, but it's still important.
I would say that's part of it. Yeah. It's one of those things that people will argue, do fish feel pain? And to be honest, I don't even think, from a producer standpoint, I don't think we need to think that way. I think let's assume that they do and then grow them in the best way possible.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like we don't need to figure out whether they're feeling pain or not. It's more important to treat them with respect and the way that they should be treated.
Right. There's still a respect for life there.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So how do you integrate animal welfare practices into the daily operations of the fishery?
Yeah. So I have to recognize my team definitely, because the aquaculture technicians, the nursery technicians do a lot of the assessment for welfare. So we use a Norwegian developed fish welfare assessment scheme. And obviously Norway is a huge fish producer. So there are individual welfare assessments, group welfare assessments, and then environmental welfare assessments. And what we're doing most frequently are group assessments and environmental. So what I mean by that, the group assessments are done daily, and that would be basically fish observation. So the technicians are out there working with the fish. They're seeing how the fish are feeding, how they're swimming. You know, the fish is going to tell you with its behavior if it's not happy. So their observations are very important. And they work with these fish all the time, so they know basically what they should and shouldn't see from a fish. And then the environmental welfare assessment is done regularly as well. So that's done in our in-house water quality lab, just saying, okay, what trends are we seeing? Are we moving towards a limit? How can we change what we're doing to make sure that we stay within what we'd like to see as far as water quality? And then individual welfare assessments, I'm going to give a shout out to Victoria, who does those a lot. So she's going to our harvest room and she's literally picking up hundreds of fish, looking them over, eyes, fins, skin, what do they look like, you know, that sort of thing. And that's done when they're anesthetized. I guess I should point that out too. It's a lot of work for sure, but it is really important to get the best growth out of a fish to see what trend you're seeing with the fish, obviously.
Yeah. You know, we hear that from farmers who are farming all sorts of livestock. It's if you want the best end product, you need to treat the animals well, or else it's just not going to be the same.
Right.
You know, it's very simple, really. All right, so how do you communicate the importance of fish welfare and sustainable aquaculture to the public or to consumers who might be unfamiliar with the industry?
Yeah, so I don't know if I usually go deep on fish welfare right off the bat with people, just because there's so much other things to talk about with RAS aquaculture. But one thing I've definitely communicated, and this seems to be particularly important to chefs, is our harvest method for the fish. And obviously, like, end of life is not pleasant to talk about, but it's really important to the way we do things here and to the fish from a welfare standpoint and also from a product quality standpoint. So basically, we use an electrostunner to anesthetize the fish. It doesn't kill them. It incapacitates them, so they're not responding to stimuli. And from then they're bled out. So the reason that this is important is that they're not struggling. They're not stressed. Like, it takes probably 30 seconds for them to go from the tank to incapacitation. So it's not a long process where there's a panic response or anything like that. And it really shows in the quality of the product as well. So it looks better, like the color is better, the texture is better for a longer period of time. And yeah, it's really the gold standard of fish harvest welfare. So that's something that I'm really proud of. And then as far as sustainable aquaculture, when I'm talking to someone, I'm just trying to hit the highlights because there's so much detail and nuance when it comes to aquaculture in general, sustainable aquaculture, what we're talking about. It's easy for people to get overwhelmed with all the information. And so, yeah, just trying to hit the benefits.
Right. All right. So what are some common misconceptions about aquaculture or fisheries that you'd like to see corrected?
I would love to see the wild versus farmed fish debate die. I want that to go away. I think that people tend to have, and I think that this is lessening, but there's still a sense that I get that people think that farmed fish is automatically bad, and that wild fish is automatically good. There are well-managed fisheries. There are poorly managed fisheries. There are well-managed farms. There are poorly managed farms. And so simply not eating farmed fish because it's a farmed fish, I think, is a big mistake. The fact is that wild capture fisheries production has really not increased since the 90s. And so with fish being such a healthy protein source, we want people to eat more fish. Where's that going to come from? You know, like without the price skyrocketing, it's going to be aquaculture. And I think in 2022 was the first time worldwide that aquaculture production actually surpassed wild caught fisheries. So looking from a societal point of view, fish are the most efficient animal protein producers when you're looking at like feed conversion. So yeah, if you want to get people to eat more high quality and nutritious food, you have to support aquaculture, in my opinion. And again, I'm not saying don't eat wild fish. There are well-managed fisheries. I would say if you're able to get a locally landed fish, go for it. Or if you live in the middle of the country, let's say, and there aren't a lot of wild caught fish there that they need to be moved in,
Right.
Find a fishmonger that you trust or someone that you know is going to have fish from a sustainable source. And I would say that most, if not all, U.S. managed fisheries are going to be sustainably managed. So I'd advocate for U.S. landed if you want to go with wild caught, but obviously farmed fish is an excellent choice.
Great. All right. So where do you see aquaculture and RAS going in the next 10 years?
So yeah, I'd love to see sustainable aquaculture expand in the U.S. Obviously, RAS farms in general require a lot of initial investment. So it does require an investor or a farmer with a lot of patience, I would say, or someone who's done their research and they know what to expect from the build out. There's a lot of opportunities in the U.S. We have a lot of resources. In my opinion, there's no reason why the U.S. can't be a powerhouse producer of high quality seafood, especially when the majority of the seafood that we eat is still imported. And so I do think we're headed in the right direction. I'd love to see more young people study aquaculture and get involved with the production in the U.S.
Awesome. All right. So our final question, what does it mean to you to be a woman in agriculture?
To be a woman in agriculture to me is to join a heritage of hardworking people. So I think women have always been involved in agricultural pursuits in some way or another. So it's gratifying to be a part of that lineage, basically. And the way that we farm here at Hudson Valley Fisheries is obviously different than a lot of historic farms or family farms, but I'm proud to be a farmer, and it's one of the most noble professions that there is, in my opinion.
Agreed. Brittany, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Of course. Thank you.
That was such a cool conversation. I loved hearing all of what Brittany had to say about the aquaculture industry, because even as we alluded to in our intro, farmed fish kind of get a bad rap a lot of times. Like, people do tend to navigate towards wild caught when they're ordering or buying fish at the grocery store. And I'm the same way. But honestly, listening to Brittany and everything she had to say, I'm like, oh, there really isn't a reason necessarily. Like, I think for me, if I'm still in like if I'm in Maryland or if I go to Maine or something, I'm probably still going to go towards something that's like local and caught
Right,
local.
of course.
But where we live in Pennsylvania, what difference does it make? You know?
Right.
And I never remotely thought about the fact that at the end of the day, wild fisheries do kind of have a finite supply. You know, like there are only so many fish in the sea. I know everyone likes to say there are lots of fish in the sea, but really, there are only so many. So that's such an interesting thought that, like, I do love seafood. And at the end of the day, to really have enough seafood to sustain a growing population, you're going to have to farm fish because you can't just empty the oceans. It doesn't work that way.
Right. Yeah, it's a very good point. I think she does an excellent job of kind of selling the concept of farmed fish on menus and why it should be an attractive option.
Yeah. I mean, and also for me, I don't know if I ever thought that much about fish farms, like what the process is like, but hearing that, at least at her facility and a lot of facilities, 90% plus of the water that's being used is being reused over and over again. So it's like, oh, you know, in your head, if you just hear like fish farming, you might think of water being wasted or just misuse of water, but that's clearly not always the case either. So it's just, this is an industry in agriculture that I know so little about, and it was also just such a cool reminder of how broad agriculture is.
Yes.
And I think that's one of, for me, my favorite things about FarmHouse is really trying to pull people from all different aspects of the ag world, because there's just, I don't know, like endless opportunities.
Yeah. And I also love like the way we keep coming across like similar themes, I guess.
Yeah.
Even though these people are doing very, very different things. But, you know, when Brittany was talking about how they basically finish the fish, right? Yeah. And how they have their own process where, you know, they're trying to give these fish, you know, like dignity and prevent any kind of panic. And I was like, oh, like she's basically doing like the fish equivalent of like the Temple Grandin cattle finishing. Like it's like all about like, yes, like these animals will have like a bad day, but it doesn't have to be like a horrible bad day.
Right.
And it's just like, it's just interesting. Like, cause I honestly had never really given a whole lot of thought to like fish and how they might feel about things. They really just don't have the same, I guess, like PR as other livestock or other animals do. But it was nice to hear that they're still considering that.
Yeah. And it makes a lot of sense why she won the award she won in terms of animal welfare and all of that, because clearly she thinks about it a lot and puts a lot of effort into making sure the fish are doing as well as they possibly can up until the very end, which that's very awesome.
Yeah. All right, that wraps it up for us. Thank you all for listening. If you like this episode, please consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And if you really like this episode, please consider leaving us a review.
If you have any questions or thoughts about the episode, you can email us at farmhouse@lancasterfarming.com.
You can also find us on social media at Lancaster Farming on most platforms.
Thank you again for visiting the Farmhouse. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Candace.
We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
This episode of The Farmhouse is copyright 2026 by Lancaster Farming newspaper, part of the Steinman Communications family.
It was written by Stephanie Spiker and Candace Worzbowski. It was produced by Eric Herlock and mixed by Justin Berger. Original music by Eric Herlock.